Welcome back to the Sunday No Huddle. Andy Olson, Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com. And Robert, feels like a tale of two halves in this one, Illinois versus Purdue on Saturday. Let's just get first your thoughts on that second half where things started to fall apart and Purdue was able to just really climb away with this one from Illinois.
It's interesting, you know, I work through my brain and like, oh, this is like that game, and that one was like this one from 2012 and everything else. And this was the Washington game from 2014 just in reverse. The Washington game, again, both games were 44-19 final score, and that's why I think of this. That Washington game got out of hand very fast because of big plays in the first half. It's the famous game where Tim Beckman had said, you know, if we could limit those 3 plays, we would have been in this at the half. And that quote went everywhere. You know, you're not 3 plays away from winning when you're down, you lose 44-19. But it's the same kind of thing of it really can snowball very quickly. It did in the first half of that game. It did in the second half of this game. I mean, even if you look at the pass to Pat Bryant, that was a sure touchdown that just went off of his fingertips. It just seems like those kind of games have those kind of moments that, you know, it's right there and this and that, and we didn't catch this, and then they hit the 46-yard pass down to the 5, and it's just, you know, snowballing out of control. And that's what happened. It's just really hard to understand against a 1-3 Purdue team, you know, in a game where it's bouncing back between, you know, Illinois favored by 1, Purdue favored by 1. To lose that game by that much is a shock.
There were really interesting quotes post-game from Brett Bielema talking about how their performance was abysmal, that changes need to happen. Was there one area where you watched this game, now that Illinois sits at 2-3, where you go, that is an area of concern to me? I
mean, hands down for me, it's the penalties. That's what I wrote about last night after I got home from the game. I just went through the box score just to see the specific penalties and when they happened. 2 of them were pass interferences one was a pass interference and one was a hold, one was defensive holding. But 2 of them were on 3rd down for Purdue on an incomplete pass where they're about to punt. And 1st down Purdue, they get 10 yards on one, they get 15 yards on the other. Both of those drives, they end up scoring. You just take those 2 penalties off the board and you subtract 14 points from Purdue's score. It's that simple of you've stopped them, their punt team is standing right there on the edge about to come on, and that flag is the reason they kept going instead of punting. And those type of things just are killers. I mean, you take those 2 plays, listen to me, I'm doing 3 plays in one game. I'm doing the Tim Beckman quote. But you fumble in the end zone to give them a free 7 points. And you continue 2 drives with 3rd down penalties when they would have had to punt. There's 21 points in this game that are just gifted, just handed through mistakes. And that's going to lose you football games.
The fumble in the end zone, 6 points because of that block to Johnny
Newton.
Point.
It's a good point. So that my quote is not exactly the Tim Beckman quote. You lost 20 points on 3 plays.
I bring that up only because Johnny Newton, it seems like, has got a thing for that now. It's at least 2 blocks this season. But getting back to things that have become concerns just from watching the games, the offensive line to me still feels like it is at a place where we were not expecting it to be at this point of the season, considering that there were 3 guys on that line that were coming back from what was a really good unit last year.
Yeah, it's a surprise. Again, as we kind of talked about last week, there's a strength that comes from familiarity, even if it's just 3 games of playing next to the same guys. I mean, in this game, we saw Hunter Whiteneck at right guard, and we saw Jordan Slaughter, left guard, or is he right guard, and this and that. They're still tinkering with it, playing with it, and it's just really difficult, as we've seen in the past, to build continuity in the offensive line when you're moving pieces. It's probably necessary. They see some turnstile blocks where the guy is untouched getting to Altmaier, and they have to say, hey, 71, get in there. Like, they have to do that type of thing. But the thing that I'm seeing is there's just not cohesion. I mean, you think of the line a couple years ago, Alex Palczewski and Vidarian Lowe had played together for 5 years. They knew exactly what the other guy was going to do. you had these situations where, there was a full understanding of what the other guys on the line, Doug Kramer's there for 5 years. Once you've been doing it over and over and over, you understand. This just feels like, well, it's this piece, that piece, well, we'll try this, and they're going to have to figure it out soon because they've got to build that continuity through the next month.
I tried doing my best Robert today, looking up stats.
Love it.
I wanted to know and put it in context how Luke Altmyer has been this season for the Illini, because we can trust our eyes, but I tried looking into the analytics. I used expected points added per play for quarterbacks.
EPA for quarterbacks.
Exactly. It is essentially, if you know baseball, it's WAR, wins above replacement, essentially. Luke Altmyer comes in as 8th place in the Big Ten of the 14 qualified quarterbacks for EPA per play. Does that line up with how you would just rate how his season has gone? A middle-of-the-road QB right now in Big Ten. That seems like it's lacking some of those big names this season. But overall, Altmyer hasn't been the reason, and has not been hurting this team on offense, I wouldn't say.
Yes. If he was playing behind Michigan's line, it obviously would be a lot different. So you do have to factor that in. He's gotten hit a lot. He's gotten sacked a lot. He's gotten hit on throws where he gets the throw off but gets crunched. All of this has happened. So, you have to weigh that in, like you said, to his numbers. I think that's about what I expect. The main thing that it makes me think is that, let's take that sure touchdown pass. They fool Purdue. I believe it was Henry Boyer breaks
did a great job.
Completely free. Nobody covers him. And the pass sails over his head. And you saw Altmyer immediately grab his helmet and be like, I can't believe I just sailed that pass of all passes. He could have underhanded it to him, and no Purdue guy could have gotten there. It's that kind of thing that I'm like, we've seen great plays. First play of this game, we saw a 40-yard run. We've seen great throws. We've seen great moments. But we've also seen that sailed pass. We saw the pass to Pat Bryant that was just maybe 2 inches too far. It's like right there and possible. But then he'll get knocked down, and then he'll get hit again, and then he'll make a decision like throwing the ball past the line of scrimmage, and it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. What it makes me think, and I think I said this last week, is Tommy DeVito went through all of that growing process at Syracuse, was actually benched during his time at Syracuse because of some of those mistakes. And then Illinois got the byproduct. They got I've worked through those things. I've looked at the film. I'm a few years older. I'm not making the same mistakes. So I think you can really see the quarterback Luke Altmyer will be, and how talented he is and what he can be, and he can make all the throws. The issue right now is just make a great throw and then miss a wide open tight end of the end zone.
Yeah, sure. Sometimes it's hard to remember that he only had 1 start at Ole Miss before coming into this season. So he's not necessarily a freshman, but very close to the beginning of his career and what he is as he's making mistakes, learning through some of those mistakes.
And I want to mention, Kirk Kittner, his freshman year, was 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions here at Illinois. By the time he's a senior, he's throwing 30 touchdowns. There is a growing process for every quarterback. Juice Williams is a freshman. The numbers were really a 39% completion percentage. It just takes time sometimes, and this is his 5th game as the Illinois starter, and we're still seeing some of those mistakes.
We haven't brought up the unit that has given up 44 points to Purdue, and I think that may be because of the way this thing just kind of snowballed out of control very quickly. 3 touchdowns in the 3rd quarter for Purdue, and it just seemed like that, and it seemed like the game was over at that point. But I want to know what your impressions were from this group going up against the guy who had assembled all of this, almost all of them, in Ryan Walters, the head coach of Purdue now. Just what did you make of their performance, and where do you think they are now in this season, as Illinois is going to have to start really relying on them here soon?
I'll say 2 things. One, we just have to acknowledge it. I looked up the stat last night. Last season, in 13 games, the Illinois defense gave up 166 points. This season so far, in 5 games, 153 points. If Nebraska scores twice on Friday night, partway through 6 games, they will have equaled the number of points allowed the entire season plus the bowl game last year. So, yes, it is is significantly worse than last year. I don't think anybody's questioning that, but they're almost at the point where they've given up more points this year than last year, and it's October 1st. And two, there's just a, they're missing a component of that one guy. I think Matt Bailey maybe could have been that guy, but I think I've even said it with you on one of the Sunday No Huddles. There's sometimes a cleaner, the guy that just makes the mistakes go away. Sidney Brown has been that guy in the past. You look to, I've mentioned, when I mention cleaner, I talk about Clayton Fedulum in the 2015 season. Any mistakes, those runs that, I don't know how he scored it through, there's somebody to make that 9 yards instead of 41 yards. And this defense just doesn't seem to have that guy. And I think that's the number one thing. They're needing someone, and I don't think they've found who it is yet, to clean up everything beyond the line. Because some of those plays are just hard to comprehend, that there's not someone flying in there and making that stop. So they really need a stopper. The big issue is they need to find that guy who can, we've talked before about how you can funnel tacklers in, you can funnel the ball carrier toward the guy you want to make the tackle. And they just don't seem to have that. They don't have that one guy. Iowa will always have that middle linebacker who does that kind of thing. I think they're searching for that guy right now and not knowing who is going to be the defensive cleaner.
It's going to be a short week getting ready for Nebraska now. I don't think I need to tell you or talk about with you how important this game is, because 3-3 at this point of the season and 2-4 are two very different records. But I want to know from you, do you think inside that Smith Center they're taking this as seriously as what we think it can be for what this season ends up being for Illinois?
I think they are. I think we heard it from some of the press conference quotes. I can't remember what the exact quote that Bielema had was, something hard conversations upcoming or something like that, or however he said it. But I think most everybody, I was talking to a friend about this today, I think most everybody, the fans and the coaches, are in maybe the same kind of place. There is a certain disbelief. They knew there might be this struggle or that struggle. They would have never guessed at camp that losing to Purdue 44-19 was even possible. I think they're very surprised by the mental errors that have been made. And so it just seems like they're going to go back and recheck everything as to, okay, we thought we were training along those lines, and we saw it the first two seasons, but we haven't seen it this year. So I think we heard about this. If you remember, the week between the bye week and 2021 was the famous quote taken out of context, went everywhere on national media, of Bielema talking about recruiting and replacements and the players he inherited. But if you remember, that was a shutout by Wisconsin. The defense had played better, but still wasn't playing well. And they had taken those 2 weeks as okay, this is a complete regroup. They came out of that with Art Sitkowski starting the Penn State game. They came out of that with some changes on the defense. Like, they took a full look at everything and say, look, we need to change this, this, and this. It feels like that's what's happening right now. They didn't expect 44-19, and they're looking at everything and saying, okay, everything's on the table. What changes are we making? Because we have to make them.
All right, Friday game against Nebraska. We will talk about it next week on the Sunday No Huddle as well. I'm not sure there are better teams you can pick in the Big Ten West right now, maybe Northwestern or Minnesota, to try and get the season back on track, because Nebraska's been struggling as well. But we will be back to talk about it next week. Sound good, Robert?
Sounds good. I'll be here.
All right, thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.
See ya.